Whenever Elma Edvan sees or learns something, he feels like he's always known it for a long time, and today is no different. As the heir of the Edvan household, he is about to undergo the divine blessing ceremony. But this situation fills Elma with a strong sense of déjà vu. Perhaps his father interpreted this as him being nervous, making him remind the young man not to worry. He believes the God of Sword will bestow his child a powerful class. The priest calls upon Elma to begin the ceremony. As he hears the priest cast baptism, memories come rushing in from 5 years, before he was even born. This world is the same as the VR-supported online game called Magic World. He used to play this in his previous life. If that's the case, Elma still wants to get his favorite class. It's the strongest yet crappy class well known in Magic World, Heavy Knight. Elma smiles before telling his father he's now a Heavy Knight. But instead of happiness or pride, the emotion plastered on his father's face is despair. He just misheard his son, right? He said Sword Saint, did he not? Shoot, Elma mixed up the memory of his previous and current life. In this world, strong and easy to master classes are highly favored. In contrast, technical and late bloomer classes are spit on. Perhaps it's because this world is yet to progress in assessing and evaluating the class's real potential. Elma's silence does nothing to quell his father's rising anger. Yanking his son by the arm, he looks at the status board to confirm his class, and that's enough to make him snap. What the heck does Heavy Knight even mean? The numbers are so low, and Elma doesn't have a single attack skill. It's clear to his father that this is a faulty class. Elma tries to calm his father, pointing out how his HP and defense are in the top bracket, but all he gets in response is a hard slap on the face. The head of the Edvan household has no concern for such things. Now he's glad he had this ceremony conducted privately. Elma's shame would have made the Edvan household lose face. Attention shifts from the failure of a son to a beautiful young lady belonging to the branch family of the Edvan household. Marie is here to also have her divine blessing ceremony. Looking at her now, Elma recalls playing with her a few times as children. But for the past 5 years, he's only seen her from a distance, and they've barely spoken to each other. The priest hesitates to start the ceremony initially, but the head of the Edvan household tells him to proceed while loathingly peering at his son. Elma has a bad feeling about this. With the baptism done, Marie brings out her status board and discovers she has become a sword saint. Looking down at Elma, she apologizes none too sincerely. It seems she has robbed him of talent. Elma's sense of foreboding from before is correct. His father jubilantly approaches Marie and announces she will be his daughter from now on and heir to the Edvan household. Marie quickly drops all her false respect for Elma as she asks her father to confirm her newfound status. The hot-headed man turns to the Heavy Knight and tells him to get lost. He, who has betrayed his expectations, is no longer his son. Elma will bring nothing but shame to the Edvan household with his faulty class. The Heavy Knight tries desperately to defend himself, but it's no use. His father no longer wants anything to do with him, and if Elma dares use the Edvan name outside, he'll cut off his head with his own 2 hands. Just like that, Elma lost everything he came to know. All he has with him is little money and his faulty class. Retreating to an inn, Elma reflects on the past event. He can't believe his father. What a heartless thing to do. Though he's lost his home, friends, and family, Elma still has the strongest class, Heavy Knight. This world's history and topography, even the city name, Rondelm, completely differs from the game. Elma guesses he'll need to explore this realm gradually. Before that, he must verify his class and skills. If Heavy Knight's specs are different here, that will deal quite a blow to him. Elma sighs in relief as he stares at the skill tree. They're still the same. With the skill tree, people can choose which skills to upgrade. Everyone gains 5 bonus points after being granted a class, and every time their level increases, the skill points increase by 1. It's no exaggeration to say that the skill tree determines everyone's fate when they acquire it. 2 types of skill tree exist, class-specific ones and those acquired randomly after creating a character. And among Elma's skill trees, his only class-specific skill is Vow of the Heavy Armor. It's exclusive for the Heavy Knight and is said to be the weakest joke skill tree ever to exist. The skills gained from it are powerful but overwhelmingly difficult to handle. Elma does have other skill trees. Increased defense doesn't give new skills but steadily improves defensive power. Then, Novice Swordsmanship uses unique items to evolve into superior swordsmanship. Given all he knows, Elma dumps all his bonus points to Vow of the Heavy Armor. His body glows otherworldly as the skill tree levels up. At level 2, Elma acquires the normal skill, Rampart Returns, and at level 5, he gains plus 10 to defense. Itching to test out his class, Elma ventures into the forest. Despite his tight budget, he buys an inferior soldier's sword and a decent-looking iron armor. Not long after entering the woods, a level 2 Lana appears from the bushes. It eyes Elma before jumping to attack. Instead of raising his sword, he activates Rampart Return by widening his stance and puffing his chest. The Lana bounces off an invisible shield before it can touch Elma. This is the power of the normal skill Rampart Return. If the user's defense is higher than the enemy's, their attack will be blocked. Elma eyes the crushed Lana's corpse. It's still such a gruesome sight to him. From the sordid flesh of the monster, he retrieves a level 2 Mana Stone. It's cheap, but worth it enough to keep. From behind, Elma hears someone screaming for help. It's an adventurer, and an army of Lanas is hot on his heels. Elma confidently tells the man to leave the monsters to him. With his getup, the adventurer assumes this guy must be a well-known adventurer. Nope, Elma just had his first level up moments ago. The man immediately says it's impossible. A level 2 rookie can't take on the army of Lanas. He should just take off his heavy armor and run away. But Elma stands resolutely on the spot while the man grits his teeth, bracing himself for impact. The amphibians bounce off the invisible surface surrounding the heavy knight. The Lanas collide, fly off, and fall one after the other. When the adventurer raises his head to inspect the scene, the army of Lanas has fallen. That many monsters all at once. Who is this guy? Remembering to discard his family name, he introduces himself as Elma, the Heavy Knight. Defeating an army of Lanas proves profitable for the new adventurer. Elma raises his level from 2 to 8 and gains the title The Immovable just from this encounter. Opening his status board, he concludes there's no doubt that this world is the same as Magic World. The adventurer apologizes for the late introduction and says he is Aris. His party told him they couldn't trust him if he couldn't at least become level 3 alone. That's why he's out here working his bum off. He couldn't be more thankful for Elma saving him. But no thanks necessary. After all, the Heavy Knight is only here to earn money, so he'll take all the Mana Stones. That's no problem at all for Aris. He'd love for the Heavy Knight to join him and the party of 2 he's applying for. Though defense-oriented classes are unpopular, Aris thinks Elma's an amazing guy. Without so much as a glance at the adventurer, the Heavy Knight turns down his offer. Aris is taken aback. Judging from the encounter with the Lanas, Elma's class is defense-oriented. He won't level up for the rest of his life if he goes for a solo play. But Elma cannot be convinced and simply apologizes to Aris. Contemplating, he knows the adventurer is right. The true value of defense-oriented classes can only be demonstrated when fighting in a group by attracting enemies and shielding companions. But it's not how Elma wants to level up. If he had allies around him, instead of gaining delicious EXP, it'd be distributed to everyone. Elma plans to acquire items, skills, and titles. Having many people with him will only attract suspicion. They'll wonder how he knows so much about this world and leveling up, and he cannot reveal those things at such an early stage. Aris proves just as stubborn as Elma. All he's saying is for the Heavy Knight's sake. Sure, he's an amazing guy, but Elma's current method of leveling up is inefficient. He's better off joining forces with Aris and aiming for higher level monsters. All the adventurer's shouts attract a giant spider monkey. The blood drains from his face as he can't believe such a thing is in the shallow part of the forest. As Elma checks the monster's status, Aris barely dodges its attack. A level 16 Alanda ape. That's what they're dealing with. Perhaps it used stealth to erase its presence. Alanda apes are swift and spit poison that hinders movement. They also have blazing claws as an additional skill. This is bad. Elma's Rampart Return skill is useless against high-level opponents. He'll need to completely block off its attack to activate the skill. But one hit from the Alpha Ape's blazing claws and Elma's as good as dead. Aris thumps his fist in frustration. This is all his fault. He attracted this monster. Shakily standing, Aris draws his sword and tells Elma to run away. But judging by his unstable stance, the Heavy Knight is better off protecting him. Elma steps forward to shield Aris. The adventurer screams that it's useless, but he also knows that this monster isn't an opponent he can defeat at the moment. But that doesn't mean Elma's about to give up. His status board shows he still has 7 skill points from leveling up. Putting it all into Vow of the Heavy Armor, Elma resolves to bet everything on this skill tree. Normal skill Disarm has been acquired. Through this skill, the attack power of an opponent will be reduced by 20% for 1 minute after being slashed. And this is exactly what Elma needs to defeat the Alanda ape. He taunts the monster, prompting it to speed toward him. The Arachnid and the Heavy Knight clash. High risk, high return. During these times, Elma's soul burns with excitement the most. The Alanda ape growls as it misses its target. It rapidly attacks, but the Heavy Knight dodges them expertly. Elma knows the monster's patterns and reach. Still, it won't be an easy win. The angered arachnid roars as it prepares a special attack. From its mouth comes light of poison. Standing his ground, Elma takes this chance to face tank the strike before charging at the monster. He uses this arm to graze the side of the Elanda ape's head. The hit did nearly 0 damage, but the debuff reduced attack power was inflicted. Growling, the arachnid shows it's far from running out of steam. It raises its front legs and activates Flame Claw. The rapid strikes from the monster have dust flying everywhere. But once they dissipate, Elma is still standing, his sword ready. Looking at its MP bar, the Heavy Knight knew the Elanda ape's special skill wouldn't work. Light of Poison's MP consumption is 7 and Flame Claw's consumption is 5. Elma lands another strike. With this, Disarm's 2-hit attack has reduced the Elanda ape's attack power by 40%. Also, thanks to the Heavy Knight's title, the Immovable, standing still gives him plus 10% to defense. The conditions are met. Elma holds his ground as the Elanda ape rampages straight at him. Rampart Return activates and deflects the arachnid's attack. It lands on its back, unable to get up. Elma pierces the arachnid's large cephalothorax and gains 4 levels from its defeat. Pulling up his status board, the Heavy Knight sees he can't upgrade Vow of the Heavy Armor for now. Elma's seen this message before. It seems this limit exists just like in Magic World, but by reaching the skill tree's level 15, Elma has acquired Parry, the last of all the basic skills. Ares rushes to where the Heavy Knight is. He can't believe this guy. With this power, Elma can certainly make a living alone. Ares shouldn't have worried about him, but he soon notices the Heavy Knight is poisoned. He better take him to the city before the unthinkable happens. Another day comes and Elma's agenda is to register as an adventurer at Rondelm City's Adventurers Guild. He approaches the guild receptionist and states his name, level, and class. A stamp of approval on his papers a few moments later, and Elma's officially registered as an F-class adventurer. Adventurers have 7 ranks. A party needs an adventurer with at least rank E or higher to enter a dungeon. Also, a limit is placed on how much a skill tree can be upgraded. That's why Elma's Vow of the Heavy Armor is stuck on level 15 for now. He'll need to reach E rank as soon as possible. 2 adventurers take notice of Elma and instantly disses his level and class. Who'd want to team up with trash like him? Everyone in the guild is now laughing at the Heavy Knight. The receptionist quickly explains there's little demand for tanks, so it might take time for Elma to find party members. Lady, he didn't say he planned on doing that. Despite the adventurer's mockery, Elma keeps calm and removes the mana stones from his bag. The receptionist is surprised he got so much alone. Of course, the adventurers suspect the Heavy Knight stole the stones. There's no way he'd collect so many by himself. Now that Elma's registered and secured living funds, it's time for him to bust out the magic words from his previous life that gets his blood boiling. Is there a promotion quest that even I can take? The receptionist doesn't look impressed, but gives the adventurer the info nonetheless. That night, a group of adventurers gather at a graveyard. Goten, a burly man with a huge battle axe, stands as the leader. He heard there's a punk participating in today's raid quest, and by that, he means Elma. Goten's seen people like this Heavy Knight, newbies who make light of the guild and the monsters. This guy defeated a level 16 Elanda ape? Who's he kidding with that crappy lie? Adventurers aren't easily fooled. Goten better beat some sense into this Heavy Knight. Elma holds his ground amid the intimidation tactic. This is the worst, but a promotional raid quest doesn't come often, so he'll just have to suck it up. The Heavy Knight bows before Goten as a sign of respect for the seasoned adventurer. He scrutinizes the young man momentarily before accepting him into their group. Goten tells another adventurer they're about to begin. Tail uses search to determine they'll be up against approximately 30 monsters. The raid leader's small praise is enough to bring out the guy's arrogance, and he definitely won't let the chance to ridicule the newbie pass him by. Everyone's heard about Elma's stunt at the Adventurers Guild. The Heavy Knight observes Tail quietly. Judging from his equipment, he believes this guy must be a red mage. This class has high physical skills, offensive spells, recovery magic, and the ability to learn various support spells. Tail laughs as he says it's a shame to be stuck with a trashy class like Heavy Knight, but when he hears Elma's quite fond of his class, he dismisses it as nonsense. At the very least, Tail hopes this newbie won't hold them back. The Red Mage is a powerful class at a glance, as the archetypical jack-of-all-trades in games. Though this world isn't a game, it's still a given that versatile classes are treated more favorably. Before the raid officially starts, Goten briefs his companions. A ghoul head spearheads the army of undead they'll face. As the D-class adventurer, he'll take it down. The rest of the adventurers must maintain distance and defeat the small fries. Goten won't help them if they get tangled up. The ghoul head is approximately level 30. It has no offensive skills, but can create low-grade whites from corpses. The monster's undead breath is also troublesome, but they have a level 40 D rank adventurer. If things go as planned, they shouldn't lose. However, Elma observes his companions are either cowardly or arrogant. The chance of everyone escaping this raid is around 80%. If this was a game, the number of adventurers alone could secure the raid's success. But in this world, death means game over. With that in mind, Elma asks Goten to specify his orders for them. The burly man isn't keen to entertain the Heavy Knight's question. To Goten, it sounds like this newbie's trying to give him orders. Elma lengthens his patience. He makes it clear he's not ordering the D-class around. Since most of them are still low-leveled, they're scared and would appreciate detailed instructions. The Heavy Knight's pandering to the raid leader works, but as Goten's about to specify his orders, Tail interrupts. The Red Mage doesn't appreciate being lumped with the likes of Elma. The only ones who should be afraid of this raid are those with trash classes like the Heavy Knight. Tail declares they don't need further instructions. The scaredy cats are free to run to the backlines. While the Red Mage is running his mouth, the Whites have risen. Who's the scaredy cat now, huh, Tail? Goten orders Tail and Pole to keep up. There is flank after all. Elma assesses the situation. The ghoul head doesn't look like it grabbed anything more than a regular club. If so, it shouldn't be much of a problem. Elma leads the remaining adventurers to handle the ghoul head's goons. One of the adventurers shakily asks if they'll be charging through such a big group. They thought Goten was going to keep the Whites from grouping, but it looks like he's only focused on the boss. Elma now understands why the adventurers are all nervous. It's their first time fighting a group of monsters, not to mention they're up against these creepy undeads. In a situation with no proper instructions, it's understandable that they're hesitating. The Heavy Knight takes charge, ordering the adventurers to split into groups of 3. If they watch each other's backs, Whites shouldn't be a problem. The adventurer in chainmail accepts Elma's orders, but as he voices his concern for how the Heavy Knight will be left alone, a White creeps up behind him. Elma rushes to parry the undead's attack, making it skid off a distance. After it recovers from the shock, the White runs to strike the Heavy Knight, along with 2 other undeads. Elma parries his opponent simultaneously, and when they come rushing at him again, Rampart Return promptly takes care of them. The adventurer's jaws drop to the ground. Did they even need to worry about the Heavy Knight? If any of them needs help, he will rush to their aid immediately. Minutes into the battle, Elma has defeated over half of the Whites by himself. So, this is the rumored Heavy Knight. From defeating the undeads, Elma has risen to level 16. Parry's more useful than he thought, especially against enemies of this level. As he inspects his status board, he hears one of the adventurers think he's reliable, but now they're more scared of him. With everyone's efforts combined, the small fry Whites lay defeated. The adventurer in chainmail wonders if Elma's going to help Goten, but since the ghoul head's level is way above their own, the Heavy Knight believes it's better to let the raid leader deal with it. Goten and the ghoul head are locked in an intense battle. A strike from the burly man's battle axe lands and slices the side of the raid boss's huge face. That only serves to anger the giant head. As Goten gears for another clash with the raid boss, Whites approach to restrain him. The raid leader yells for Tail and Pole to quit gawking and do some fighting. They should be taking care of the undeads. What's with the lack of nerve? Goten has no interest in promoting cowards. Tail understands, but the ghoul head will target them if they get any closer. Though irritated by his companions, Goten has a bigger problem to take care of. He dodges the ghoul head's attack before landing his special skill, Boulder Smash. The powerful strike sends the raid boss tumbling. Elma observes from a distance. One more hit from Goten and they'll finish this raid. But the Whites keep coming. The adventurers by the Heavy Knight's side declare they'll handle the undeads, but Elma stops them. While the ghoul heads down, it reaches for the nearest White and promptly devours it. As the crunch of undead flesh echoes, the raid boss's HP goes up. So the ghoul head has corpse eating for healing, but Elma senses something is off. There's no reason to eat that many undead if the raid boss's goal is to heal once with corpse eating. The ghoul head bellows, taunting its enemies to attack. Goten raises his battle axe, ready to strike the raid boss now that 0 Whites are in his way. Elma finally realizes what's wrong with the monster. He screams for Goten to fall back as the ghoul head develops bulging muscles and sharper teeth. The raid boss has evolved into a level 40 madhead. This is not good. Evolution is a rare event in which a cornered monster brings out its latent potential to escape danger by evolving into a different species. Even in Magic World, the chances of this rare event occurring were unknown. In this situation, Elma can only say that they were simply unlucky. The Heavy Knight yells for the raid leader to get away from the madhead, but it's too late. The monster roars, and though Goten blocks it, he receives the abnormal status, Daze. Elma orders the shell-shocked Tail and Pole to distract the monster. If Goten drops out of this fight, they'll all die. But before the flanks can do anything, the Madhead smacks their raid leader to the ground and inflicts him with paralysis. As the raid boss goes in for the deciding blow, Elma runs to protect Goten and parry the monster's strike. He skids as the Madhead's power is too much for his current level. Without removing his gaze from the raid boss, Elma orders Tail to use heal and paralysis heal on Goten. But the red mage tearfully says he does have heal, but not paralysis heal. He hasn't gotten it since he poured his skill points into attack power-up. That isn't very reassuring. All Elma can ask of Tail is to take Goten somewhere safe and use heal on him. The paralysis from the Madhead's special skill, Paralyzing Toxin of Decaying Flesh, disappears in about 3 minutes. If the Heavy Knight can hold out for that long, then Goten can return to the fight after Tail heals him. Though Elma has memories of fighting this raid boss in the game, nothing could compare to experiencing this in real life. He taunts the Madhead to turn its focus away from his companions. Until Goten gets back on his feet, Elma will be the raid boss's opponent. The other adventurer stares at the Heavy Knight in disbelief. It's impossible for an F-rank adventurer to fight head-to-head with a monster like that, so they're better off taking this chance to escape. After all, they'll be the Madhead's next target once the Heavy Knight dies. Elma pays no heed to his retreating companions and assesses the situation. He's level 16 and his opponent is level 40. Making any mistakes could lead to his death. As the Madhead prepares to strike, Elma steps back and parries its punch. The raid boss proves strong, its fist sending the Heavy Knight flying to the other side of the graveyard. Elma wanted to avoid high-risk, high-reward situations where his abilities would be tested to their limits. But he can't deny this encounter has him fired up. Some adventurers who stayed to see the fight through observe the Heavy Knight, to think he's fighting evenly with the monster that blew away Goten. But if they look carefully, it's clear he's struggling. It's a miracle the Heavy Knight lasted this long. Elma smirks at the Madhead before jumping to evade its attack. He can't keep this up, so he must land a counterattack. Adding skill points to beginner swordsmanship raises it to level 5, giving Elma direct slash. This skill attacks using the blade from point-blank range and is effective even against opponents with high defense. Elma parries another punch from the Madhead. He strikes the ground with his blade to stop himself from skidding too far. In one swift motion, the Heavy Knight slides underneath the raid boss, leaving it wondering where its opponent went. This gives Elma a perfect chance to use direct slash on the Madhead. Since direct slash sacrifices range to get the jump on the enemy, most people regard it as a trash skill. But surprisingly, it works well for a Heavy Knight with a low offense and high defense. Still, Elma knows his attack isn't enough to take down the raid boss. The Madhead roars before releasing a series of onslaught on the Heavy Knight. Elma dodges each one with finesse, noting how erratic the monster's movements are becoming. The raid boss punches the ground in frustration. That's right, the real fight starts now because Elma's role is finished. From behind the Madhead, Goten jumps and brings his battle axe on the monster's huge dome. It's a special attack, Dragon Slayer. With one last kick to the ground, the raid boss goes down. Elma smirks as his level increases from 16 to 23. The raid leader looks at the Heavy Knight wordlessly. Though an F-rank, he managed to last long against attacks that almost ended even the level 40 Goten. Elma thanks their leader for saving him. Any longer than that and he would have died. Goten doesn't respond, choosing to simply stare at the Heavy Knight. In an unexpected turn of events, the burly, stoic man bows before Elma to apologize. Goten recognizes his lack of leadership and sloppy management. Everything in this raid went exactly as the Heavy Knight presumed. To reward Elma's efforts, Goten gives him the right to take all the monster's drops. A level 40 magic stone fetches a high price, and the Heavy Knight can really use something like that. But to be sure, Elma asks if Goten's truly alright with him taking it for himself. The raid leader reassures the newbie he can take everything. After all, he couldn't have defeated the Madhead without the Heavy Knight's help. Peering closer at the monster's corpse, Goten sees it left behind a rare drop. Elma wonders if the raid leader would like to have that, but Goten reiterates he won't take anything, and he's not about to go back on his words now, though he'd at least like to see the item status. Elma lifts the item from the monster's decaying flesh. The Shield of Madness gives plus 25 to defense and is valued at 3 million gold. Rampart Return only activates when the Heavy Knight blocks strikes with his armor, but with this shield, he can completely shut off any attacks of the same level. From Elma's shoulder, Goten peers at the 3 million gold shield. The Heavy Knight takes this chance to ask about the promotion. The raid leader tells him not to worry. He'll tell the guild they're fools if they don't let Elma rank up to E. Goten admits the guild asked him to watch over the newbie and ensure he's not involved with foul play. But now, that seems like unnecessary advice. Goten's sure to hit anyone who'll disagree with him. While the raid leader and the heavy knight laugh, Tail approaches them sheepishly. The red mage is hoping Goten will recognize his promotion. After all, he used heal on the leader. Goten looks at Tail disdainfully. The red mage completely held him back against the raid boss. How could he promote someone like that? There will be countless other dungeons more difficult than this raid. Tail needs to gather more experience before returning to Goten. The red mage's shoulders slump as he accepts the raid leader's decision. He peers at the heavy knight before lowering his hat in shame. At the Adventurers Guild, the receptionist gives Elma the raid's rewards. First is the initial 130,000 gold, then 200,000 gold for 10 white stones, and lastly 600,000 gold for the retrieval of a ghoul-turned-madhead's magic stone. Goten's belly laughing at how Elma out-earned him in this raid, but the receptionist has to confirm something with the raid leader. Did that heavy knight really defeat a variant of the ghoul head? Adventurers present echo the receptionist's doubt. The heavy knight also brought a high-level magic stone a while back. Isn't that suspicious? Or perhaps he has some kind of loophole. How the heck can a heavy knight earn that many magic stones? Goten slams his fist on the counter in anger. Are these lots suspecting Elma? Because that means they're also disrespecting his judgment. Everyone present is dumbfounded, none daring to go against the respected D rank. Thanks to Goten, the heavy knight can safely be promoted to E rank. Now, Elma wonders what to do next. He could try earning money through dungeon diving now that he can enter them, but his fighting style using Rampart Return is starting to lose its usefulness. Then Elma needs to find the skillbook, Smoldering Fang of Madness, a necessary item to bring out the heavy knight's true worth. A completed heavy knight can't be considered a defense specialist class anymore, but it's not an offensive specialist either. It's the pinnacle of a human weapon. To achieve that, Elma must combine the powers of two skill trees, Vow of the Heavy Armor and Smoldering Fang of Madness. Because of how rare the skillbook is, the heavy knight doubts it's in this town. He approaches the shopkeeper to buy 3 healing potions, which cost 72,000 gold. It's a tad expensive, but Elma guesses he needs to make some sacrifices. As the shopkeeper prepares his order, the heavy knight asks where he can buy skillbooks. He searched every store in this town, and he couldn't seem to find any. The shopkeeper wonders if it's this guy's first year as an adventurer. Selling and buying skillbooks is banned. Adventurers can use skillbooks they find, but the rest are purchased by the Adventurer Guild and given to nobles and churches. Noble families now have more influence than they did in the game. To think that something like this could happen, that means there's a high chance Elma's family, the Edvans, monopolizes the skillbooks in Rondam City. The shopkeeper takes pity on the heavy knight after seeing how crestfallen he is. She's not supposed to reveal this information willy-nilly, but she'll give him an exception. Elma can consider it as a bonus to the healing potions. The shopkeeper gives the heavy knight a sketch of a map with a store's location that sells dismantled items from dead adventurers. The store doesn't report its findings to the guild because of an unspoken agreement. The guild knows about black markets but doesn't do anything about them. They give the dismantled items not to the bereaved family but to the noble's pockets. The same goes for skillbooks. They hoard by stealing and never using them. Elma clutches the map, disappointed with how he's grown ignorant of this world. If his memories didn't return and he became a sword saint, perhaps he'd become a cruel noble like his father. Before Elma leaves, the shopkeeper reminds him not to disclose the information to anyone. The heavy knight wastes no time in finding the store. With how dusty, musty, and dark the place is, he wonders if they really sell skillbooks here. To Elma's surprise, they do. And there are even 5 books in their inventory. An old lady with claw-like nails notes how shabby-looking the heavy knight's armor is. The shattered grimoire hall isn't a place for youngsters like him. Elma says he has the money and wants to see the skill books. The shopkeeper tells him he's free to browse. A brat's fingerprints won't change their prices anyway. The first book Elma picks up is Beginner Archery with a market value of 2 million gold. That's a huge jump from the 500,000 gold he remembers in the game. But that's not all. The shopkeeper says she's selling it at 3 million gold. She crossed quite a dangerous bridge to get it. Thankfully, the government officials turned a blind eye to what she did. But if someone higher up found out, the shopkeeper would be shot dead. To think beginner skill trees cost this much. Even if Elma sold a shield, he doesn't think buying rare skill books would be possible. Taking out 4 of the 5 books, he sees these rare items are not what he needs right now. But with the last book, Elma's eyes widen. The Smoldering Fang of Madness is here, the Heavy Knight's mandatory skill tree. If Elma can get this book, the skill tree will be his. The shopkeeper is surprised to see the gleeful look on the youngster. It's quite strange for him to want something like that book, not to mention that she's selling it for 50 million gold. Elma heaves a long sigh. The old lady should hire bodyguards if she's selling items with prices like those. But the shopkeeper only dares him to have a go at her. She recently beat up 5 people like a drum. Elma can't afford the book right now, but he'll definitely gather the 50 million in return for the book. Until then, he asks the shopkeeper to reserve it for him. What's in it for me? A valid question from the old lady. Elma doesn't know how to respond, but the shopkeeper soon agrees to reserve the book for him. She doesn't dislike brats like him. All it'll cost him is an additional 5 million gold. Elma has to say the old lady's a shrewd one, and that means he'll need to work out his finances. How does one earn 50 million gold fast in this world? Though Elma regained his memories from a past life, it cost him everything he had, his family, friends, and status. All because he had to choose his favorite class in this game. The Heavy Knight is looked down upon as being a trash, defense-oriented class. But as an expert in Magic World, Elma knows that's not the case, quite far from it. He'll show his father and the Edvan household that Heavy Knight should be respected and revered. One day, the whole world will know just how powerful Elma's favorite class is.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.